Won't he do it? Won't he do it? Won't he do it? Yes, he will. Yes, he will. Yes, he will. Oh, yes, he will. Oh, yes, it will. What's going on, everybody? Support it. We're watching aka Matthew 33. Today is the studio here today, Sunday, August the 28th, 2022. And the time is 2:45, 2:46. Let's go. We're going to jump right in. Credit worthiness. Are you credit worthy? So we're preparing for the class September the 2nd. Excuse me. We are breaking down, getting into how to become rich using credit. And how to become rich by getting in debt, by doing the opposite of what everybody tells you to do. Because that's what I've done. So I want to teach you my step-by-step system of how to establish credit worthiness so that way you are always gliding and shining and you're always in a position of power because you have options and you have choices. That's the name of the game. You put yourself in a space or in a place where you have status, perceived. Doesn't have to be real, as long as it's perceived. Like, hey, we want to do business with this guy. So people want to give you shipment. And the reason that people want to give you shipment is because of your credit worthiness. I am driving back to the shizzle, back from Big D, and so they may hear a little vibrational disturbance, or, calls could actually drop, and if that's the case, you guys know what to do. Just stay on the line. I'll call right back in, and we'll keep the party going. Today's message is the intro for the next 3 to 5 days until the 2nd. We'll be doing these introductions to the basic understanding of really character and your consciousness, because that's what credit is. Credit worthiness is a mental disposition. Everything in life is a mental disposition. Nothing matters more than your mental disposition. We talk about a lot of things in these classes, in these shows. All of our classes and all of our shows, we deal with a lot of deep issues. When I say deep issues, I mean, we all oscillate and vibrate with outside influences. Some of these influences are positive, but the majority of the outside influences are negative. When I say negative, that simply means that they are distractions. Distractions cause inactions. Now, inaction simply means that there is a gut feel. You have this feeling that I should go left or I should go right. But instead, you get paralyzed. And you then engage in a paralysis of analysis, and you watch TV, you do, non-issues. When I say non-issues, you're busy, but you do busy work. You don't do purpose-based protection. And I can always tell somebody who's not credit-worthy. Credit worthiness is a mental disposition that is production-based. Production-based disposition is simply you are constantly. It's not something that you turn on and turn off. It is something that is a constant because awareness is constant. In other words, I'm driving right now, so I got to be aware of what's going on the road. It's constant though. I can't just stop being aware while driving and just decide that I'm going to drive for 10 seconds with my eyes closed, so I'm tired, so my eyes are getting heavy, so I was like, I'm going to take a break. Well, if I want to take a break, I got to pull over, find a rest area, or pull over to a safe environment, so that way I can do what? Relax. So you can't relax from the perspective of not stay conscious. So credit worthiness is an awareness of your abilities to be able to make ends meet. And what can you do? How can you change? What can you adjust so that way you're in a better position to pay your bills on time. And this position that we all are in, everybody's, and it's really interesting, you know, because during the series we're going to really get into the whole credit industry and, you know, the science behind it. I like the science behind stuff because just like everything that we talk about on the shows, you know, it's amazing how the brain works, how the system is set up. So nobody on this call designed the system, but yet we're all in this system. So this may sound basic, and it is kind of sad that I didn't learn anything about credit until I was in my 40s. So what I'm telling you and what we're learning today should be taught in high school. Everybody on this call, if you have children, you should teach your children the importance of credit worthiness. Are you worthy of me extending, giving you a product with the promise? Is your word your bond? Credit is your wand. I didn't understand it, man. I know people told me, and I just like, man, I'll just pay it whenever. And, you know, my sister Brenda has always had good credit. And I didn't understand the importance of, like staying on your job, establishing employment history. And even if it's not the same job, don't do what I did and change industries. Because it's almost like starting over when it comes to your credit profile. Now remember, today's message is leading up to the pay-per-view classes that's starting on September the 2nd, where we get really into the science and the metaphysics behind credit and how to use credit and how to use debt to pretty much position yourself so that way in the event of a year-long catastrophe where you don't have access to any funds, no money's coming in, you're good because you're able to, you know, use position A to pay off position B, and then use, you know, position B to pay off position C, and then take position C and go back to position A and reallocate because you already paid it off, especially in the case like what I do with loans. And, you know, there's 4 different types of credit. We're going to get into like installment and, you know, revolving. We're going to break all of this down during the series. And we're going to really get into understanding the 7 C's of credit and why, especially now, credit is so important. Because your word is your bond. But more importantly, your word is your wand. I did not understand that credit is like a magic wand. You just kind of wave it around. Until I purchased this vehicle. I had never done sign and drive before. I read about it. I saw it on TV, but I was never in a position to sign and drive. You know, I was never in a position so that my word, I could go in and tell people, I could sign my name, and my name was my bond, and my bond was my wand, my W-A-N-D. Credit is a wand, a W-A-N-D. When you establish, when we go through this class, regardless of what I was exposed to and what I learned, and I didn't know it was possible until we had to do it with my wife's credit score, and she went from basically a 400 to like a 650 in less than 30 days. So I was dumbfounded because I thought that, you know, you couldn't go into the credit repair system and excuse me, was I water? And update it immediately. I thought that was just time lag. And for us citizens, for regular Joe and Josephine, yeah, you got some letters, you got to do all of this stuff, but there is another portal. There is another system that I'll be talking about doing the private pay-per-view class so you can update your credit score instantly. Now, there are some apps available, like the Experian app, where you can do certain things, and I'm not really talking about that. What I'm talking about is, I know that stuff is good, where you can take something that is not reported on your score, like your rent. And if you got, like we had 10 years of perfect rental history, I did not know you could report that and use Experian and do what they call a instant credit boost. Now, there's a cost involved, but that's just one of the techniques and one of the things that we're going to be talking about doing the pay-per-view class, so that way if you are, thankfully I wasn't in that position, but in order to take advantage of the VA benefits that were given to somebody who is a disabled veteran, as we found out, which is a whole nother thing. And if you're a veteran, pretty much like me, I don't have no disability rating. And everybody keeps telling me to go and get a disability rating, because everybody that serves in the military are either retired or they got a disability rating, so that way they get a check every 30 days. And that's the whole system. And I moved into my neighbors is the head of this organization that works with veterans who don't have disabilities, but do. Because if you ever went to, like I did when I was a veteran, I went to what we call sick call. And when I was a veteran, I had injuries, like minor stuff. Well, come to find out, you get paid for that. Well, I didn't know. Like, I did not know. I've been carrying medical insurance pretty much all my life. So I've been wasting $200, $300, $400 a month on medical insurance. If you served in the military more than, I think it's 120 days, and obviously I said way more than that, you can go to any VA hospital. They pull up your information and see that you honorably served, bam, you get free dental and medical. I didn't know that. Credit is consciousness. Consciousness is making sure that you're not leaving your money on the table, like I did. So if you think my entire adult life, after I got out of the military, every job I worked at, I got benefits for myself and for my family. And I had no idea that I did not have to carry or get medical insurance, because as a veteran, whether you are retired or not, whether you are disabled or not, you can go to a VA hospital and get. So creditworthiness is awareness of the, I will use the word, benefits that you have. This is just one example. Now, we just talk about, for example, when I work with family endeavors. Now, this is crazy. Now, family endeavors, we work with Catholic charities, and I had an office at a place here, and you can Google it, it's called Haven for Hope. So Haven for Hope is a homeless shelter that it's a whole city. It's in downtown San Antonio. I had an office at Haven for Hope. I had an office at Red Cross. I had an office at Catholic Charities. And I had an office at Family Endeavors. And I had a company vehicle, and I rode around, and I was assisting supposedly veterans to get off the street. Well, on my caseload, I also had women and children. Some were veterans, some were not. Because when there was a case where we was overloaded because there wasn't as many veterans as there were just regular citizens. So what we're going to be talking about doing this class is that there are, and you can Google all of this stuff, especially like Family Endeavors and Red Cross. They have to. If you are for example, single female and you got children, especially if you got babies, by law, they have to put you in a hotel. And they got to do it within 24 hours. Now, each state is different because it is a state-run, even though it has federal oversight. Credit worthiness is the awareness of the credit that has been, that you automatically have extended to you because you're a human being. So we're going to go through this some of it. And again, we're not going to even get into like welfare. We're not going to get into Social Security benefits and like some of the like food stamps, like common stuff that most people know. So I'm assuming, we're going to assume that you're already aware of that has been extended to you, because what we're talking about is, I don't want you guys to do what I did when I was, quote unquote, starting over multiple times. We was talking about this last night with my daughters, and they was like, you know, and it was a healing process, because they didn't, now that they got families, they're like, Dad, we didn't understand why it was so hard for you and Mom to just keep a roof over our head. Like, we didn't understand why y'all struggled so hard to just do the basics. And then I explained, so we stayed up last night till like, man, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and crying because of my daughter Shamora and what she went through, and all of the stuff that, you know, the mistakes that I made as a father that led up to her, you know, dying and transitioning. And it was amazing because it was therapeutic, but it was also, you know, enlightening because my children are adults. And when we talk about credit, my children's credit score now, their starting salaries, it's their generation, like my granddaughters, won't have to go through what I went through. Because I think about like my sister's kids. I was, you know, one of my sister's daughters was her name is Bianca, and me and Bianca has always had a very, she's like a daughter. You know, we the whole time we was at the event, you know, me and Bianca, we were just talking, you know, about relationships. We were talking about her job. You know, we were just talking about growing up and all the stuff that she's been through, and all of, you know, she's had some medical, you know, challenges too, like my daughter Shamora. And we were just talking about it. I was just so blown away at how successful she is. And when I say successful, simply conscious. Credit is consciousness, brothers and sisters. Credit is an awareness of like basic, I think it's basic shit. But it's sad, but I did not have that awareness. I didn't have it. I wish to God that I could say that I did. This is not an excuse, as I was telling my daughters last night. And I was explaining to them, like, I was on my own since 13. Nobody taught me how to pump gas. I didn't know how to pump gas. I didn't even know how to change a flat tire. I didn't know how to put air inside. All my buddies and my friends who had fathers, they would laugh at me because I didn't know basic hygiene. The Marine Corps saved me. If it wasn't for the Marines, I'd be dead. I surely wouldn't be the man that I am today. The Marine Corps gave me basic discipline. It gave me a basic understanding of your word is your wand. When you speak, it is freaking mystical. It is magical. You got power. That's why I love the military. It should be freaking mandatory for every male, especially a black male, should go into the military. Not just for your country, but for your discipline. Unless you get it at home. I did not get it at home. I did not know that my word had worth. It had value. And if I could keep my word, if I could just keep my word to myself, first of all, like I didn't understand that I was just making promises and I didn't keep them. I was just breaking promises. I didn't understand that every time you make every time you say something, that's a vow. And the Bible talks about it's better, you should never break a vow. So what happens is you actually lower your immune system every time you don't keep a promise to yourself. This is why a lot of people are sick. And you actually lower your manifestation and your creative power every time you make a promise. So I didn't understand that. I was buying cars, and if I didn't like it, I just stopped paying it. And the dude would call me and say, hey, Mr. Archie, and I had the money. I was just like, man, I don't like this car no more. He's like, well, you make, some more payments on it, maybe you can trade it in. And no, I ain't making no more payments, bro. I don't want it. Come pick it up. Yeah, so that's not how it works. It's like, this is not, and I was so ignorant to basic credit. It is sad that that I have to make this statement. I don't think nobody on this call is coming from a deficit that I came from. Hopefully not. But I had no idea that my character was tied into, but my consciousness was tied into. But my character and my consciousness is my awareness. My awareness of when I'm speaking, I'm making promises. It's just like doing today's show. If I say and I send out the link and I say, hey, I'm doing this show at 2 something, like I did. And then what if I don't call in? Everybody call in and you guys just waiting for me. And I don't never call in. And then you're like, okay, well, maybe something happened. You don't hold it against me, right? You're like, well, because that emergencies do happen. And you might say, hey, well, I don't know what's going on, man. Hey, he did say he was driving and hey, we don't know. So tomorrow, I send out a link to everybody. Hey, showtime, 2:45, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, whatever it is. Everybody calls in and I don't show up again. I'd be like, well, man, I don't know what's going on. This is the second day he said he's going to do a show and, he didn't show up. So some of you guys will text me, hey, Doc, everything okay? You all right? We miss you today. Some of you guys may get kind of, yeah. But then tomorrow or the third day, I do it again. What happens is you're not going to trust. My trustworthiness is being destroyed, but I'm going to wake up and blame the white man or blame T.D. Jakes or Creflo. I'm going to blame somebody, but whose fault is it? Especially if I didn't even give you a courtesy text or email that says, hey, I planned the show, but this happened, so I'm not going to be able to do the show today. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Now, the free shows, not so much. Because like today's show, it's a free show. What if you paid? I just sent a pay-per-view show. Right? You guys was most of you guys that's on this call was on that pay-per-view show. And we went through the 7 days, the 3 books. I packed it all together. I sent everybody the email, and I delivered on my promise. That's credit. Credit is the ability for you to deliver on your promise. If somebody extends grace towards you and lends towards you, I need you to have some content in your character. I need you to be a man or a woman of your word if you make a promise. Obviously, I am not talking about the exceptions. There are exceptions to rules, but there are people who are like me, unfortunately, in this world that you're going to run into. When I was 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, all the way up to pretty much 30. Probably actually later than that. What I'm telling you, I had no clue. I did not understand the importance until, number one, and I've bought many cars, but I never bought a car with an interest rate under 3%. That was never even an option. Most cars I bought the interest rate was like 18%. I remember like, I had a credit card that the interest rate was 30%. I've always only been extended double digit, like credit offers. And I remember when I started, I couldn't even qualify for anything, so I could only get the what you call them cards, where basically you give them money and you just borrow your own money. And that may be where some of you guys have to start. It's been so long, I forgot, man, I forgot what do they call those? Secured. I think they call them a secure card. And, hey, if that's where you got to start, bam, that's where we start. There's nothing, because where you start doesn't matter. Because 30 days, 60 days, max 90 days from now, after this class, everybody will be at a 650, 700 credit card, regardless of where you start. Because I just did it. And we just went through this with my wife when we started at 450. And we had to get her up to 650. And we did it in less than 30 days. And the lady that I'm working with, Jill, she taught me all of her secrets. Because I was asking 1,000 questions. I was going on email level. I was like, hold up, time out. You need to tell me that this is available? Like, how come people don't know this? How come it's the world they don't want people to know this? Because then everybody will fix their credit. And if they want people to have bad credit, they will not really. They just won't, you know. Now, most Caucasians know this. It's something we're going to talk about in the class. But I don't know a lot of melanated people that know this, which is the purpose for the class. So everybody has access to good credit. So that way, if there is an emergency for you and your family, and your car breaks down, the washing machine breaks, you need to go and you need to make a major purchase, and you need to spend, you need to drop 5 or 10 grand, and you don't have 5 or 10 grand just sitting in the bank. Well, you need to have access to this. This class, I will go through step by step, so that at the end of the 7 days, you will understand how you have everything that you need to change your entire life, regardless of your income. Now, it's a lot easier if you got income, and a lot of it, because obviously that just means that you were able to move through any of the negative, if you want to use that term, and clear up some of the stuff. But most of the stuff, like with all the stuff that I did, was contacting, making offers, and settling debt for 10 cents on the dollar. I had an old debt for like $5 grand. I offered them $500. Man, they took it. They sent me a letter. I submitted the letter to the credit bureau. They took that off my credit score and jumped up by like 30 points. There's so many different options. And that's what I'm saying. High value men and women, we have status, which is a mental disposition. And we have options, which is awareness and consciousness of programs available. There is like right now, there's a program available, and I would not take it only because I'm conscious of my debt-to-income ratio, which we're going to talk about that as well. But there is a special SBA program out that I qualify for, where if I wanted to go in and borrow $100,000 with my business today, I could go do that. Now, that's what we will be talking about doing the class. Because a lot of people are like, shoot, yeah. But when you have a system in place, the system only works, as I will show you and prove to you, if you understand management. You have to be able to manage, because it is based upon, again, it is a loan. But the key to how everything works is to minimize the interest on the loans, so that way your credit Because if you can pay no matter what amount you borrow, if you're able to pay that borrow off, most places have 90 days same as cash, which means that if you can pay off that loan in less than 90 days, it's considered the same as paying cash, no interest. Now, not all places have that, but a lot of places do. So again, that's a lot of this stuff you guys will know. It is just be a refresher. And more importantly, what is the step-by-step process to build your own system where you are your own bank, where you borrow money from yourself and then you pay yourself back? That because they're in a space where they are able to borrow money for themselves from their own savings or their own line of credit and pay it back with little or no interest. And so credit worthiness is the ability for you to understand that when you establish a mental disposition, and I was explaining to my daughters last night, when you make a jump, and that's when we was talking about the levels, because like I've went through all of these levels myself. And I was talking with my niece, Bianca, and I was explaining to her it is the same way in relationships. Money and relationships are very similar because there are levels in relationships. And we was talking about one of her relationships and how you could start off on the same level. But then one partner grows at a different speed or different rate and in a different direction. Well, it's the same thing with exactly the same way. The interest rates change. So the monthly payment on like a mortgage at 3% and a monthly payment on a mortgage at 9% is about double. So the amount that you're able to borrow changes. So that means you got to change your management style when the market changes. So you can do a lot more when the interest is at 3% than you can when the interest is at 9%. So these are all the little things that nobody taught me, that I learned the hard way. And when I say, woo, learn the hard way, Brother Joseph, I learned the hard way, brother. But the best lessons are personal experience. Nobody can take those lessons because they're in my brain. They're in my neurons, as we was talking about. God is a neuron. Remember yesterday's show? And we was talking about the word neuron means neutral. And the word neutral means aletheia. And the word aletheia means truth. So that's why God gives you people a strong delusion, because they're not neutral. That's crazy. So energy is not positive or negative. Energy is just source or supply. You use it positive or negatively. It's not positive or negative. You make it positive or negative based upon your operating system. So it's the same thing. Credit is not good or bad. People say, oh man, credit is good. Debt is the same way. Debt is not good or bad. How you apply the debt. What is the debt for? Are you getting in debt to go buy you another $600 purse? Well, it depends. Does that person, and I'm finding out, like all these purses that my wife got, they hold their value. Because she puts them on these little sites after she's had it for a couple of months, and she sells them. And people come to the house and pay her $650 for a purse. And I'm like, oh yeah, but it's it's Louis Vuitton or it's this guy or that guy. That I mean, to me, I wouldn't pay $650 for no purse. But as I found out when I was in New Mexico, and I got into manufactured housing, and some of those manufactured housing, those mobile homes, I wouldn't live in them. But as I found out, when I put them out there for rent, and I had 30 people apply, your standard of living may not be acceptable to some, but it's acceptable to a lot of others. the hardest thing for people to, this is what I was explaining to my daughters last night, because they needed a reality check. And some of you guys might need one of those too. Every once in a while I need one. Because sometimes we think life, we think, life is hard. And it's, only thing that's hard to do is your perspective. Because there's always somebody that has it worse than you. So what does that mean? Well, all that means is consciousness. So credit is consciousness of all of the options that are available because you have status. That's correct. And when we talk about you lose your credit when you lose your consciousness. You lose your credit when you lose your options. You lose your credit when you lose your status. Now let me say this again really slow. You lose your credit when you lose your status. I don't know how the banks know other than your energy, but guess what? If you need money, ain't nobody gonna lend you a dime. Yeah, I mean it's a true story. If you single and you want a man or a woman, you got to go buy one. You have to already have before you can get. That's credit. Once you understand the game, as I explained to my daughters last night, when you understand the game, then the game understands you. The game respects game. It's crazy. I didn't set up the system. I'm just playing the system. The game respects game. If you are violating the rules of the game, then the game is going to violate you. That's called poverty. Poverty means you don't know how to play the game. So we're going to be breaking this down on September the 2nd. Cost is $249. You get the last class, cost is $199. So it's only $20. You get, $50 discount if you took the last class. Again, y'all know the routine. Just go to the website, click on the link that says donation, and do your due diligence. Because when you understand the game, which is confidence. So now we got a $1 million question. Doc, where do you get your confidence from? I got my confidence from past experience, and I get my confidence from my future desires. That means I get confidence from my wanted future. And I stay away from my unwanted past. So that gives me something called confidence. Why? Because I can manage my mind. So I manage my mind the same way I manage my money. Damn! Somebody should write that down. So to make sure you understand, credit is the ability, because credit is extended to you. God has already given you credit. What is credit? Credit is your attributes and characteristics. You got credit right now. You have a spiritual bank account. Everybody on this call, everybody's a spiritual millionaire. How do you spend your spiritual money? Most of you guys give it to PD's and $12, or you give it to your revenue doctor or your bishop. So you are violating the laws of spiritual credit. Spiritual credit is what the Bible calls faith. Because without faith, faith is pistis, pistuo, and pito. Faith is your word. Your word is your wand. Faith is the ability to call those things that are not as though they were. That's credit. Credit is I'm going to give you 10 grand, even though you don't got 10 grand. But why would I give you 10 grand? Because you have worthiness. You have worthiness. That credit worthiness comes from, when it comes to traditional credit, your past experiences, meaning your payment history. So what's the goal, Doc? We need to make sure that your current payment history is And if the current payment history is not being managed, then we got to reallocate. What does that mean? So I give my bonus kids an allowance for school. If they take, which they do, then they got to call their mama. And sometimes she bails them out, which is, hey, it is what it is. If you have, let's say, $20, and you have 5 days, you have to divide 5 into 20, so you can establish your daily spending limit. Because if you go over your daily spending limit, at the end of the week, you're not going to have enough because of poor management. Now, that means that you could splurge, which they do, and go out with their friends and blow, depending on your definition of blow, eat a really nice meal, maybe 2 really nice meals on Monday and Tuesday. That means you're going to be sucking on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Credit is the ability for you to manage your mind first. The way you manage your money is the way you manage your mind. Remember, the external world is an indication of the internal world, or lack thereof, your chakra systems. Your chakra systems turn based upon the mental disposition. That's credit. Credit is weird because all it is make-believe. It's like the stock market. So the stock market goes up and down based upon what? Well, some knucklehead feeling, and they take into account what other countries is doing, and the market goes up and down. There's a lot of things that affect the market, positively and negatively, right? Credit is no different. So your credit is based upon your market. Your market is your mind. So what if you could have a high vibrational mind? I personally just did this. Because the mind is going to draw something to you called options and opportunities for optimization. The 3 O's. There are options and opportunities for the optimization of your life. That's credit. Now, remember, I'm talking about the metaphysics and the science of credit. Sure, the traditional credit, which everybody knows, you go and you apply for a credit card. They approve or they disapprove your application based upon your credit worthiness. Your credit worthiness is determined by your past payment history. It's also determined by the number of, inquiries. It's also, determined by the number of slow or late payments. It's also determined by your debt to income ratio. If you got 3 credit cards, each card has $5,000 on it, and each card is maxed out at $4,800, that affects the credit score. As I found out, if you take the credit cards and pay it off and close the account, that affects the credit score negatively. Because you want to pay it down, you don't want to close the account. Because you want to, again, that ability to manage. So credit is management of assets. So the only way you learn how to manage assets and liabilities is to manage mind. Positive thoughts and negative thoughts. So if you got bad mental disposition, you got bad credit. I can easily tell who's got bad credit because they got a bad disposition. The disposition is bad. Why? Because of the inability to manage assets and liabilities. So credit for me starts in the mind. As I explained to my kids, they were talking to me about the physical, and I control the physical with the mental. Because what happens when you control the mental, you appear. And people will take a risk on you even if you don't have the physical. Because they pick up the vibe and say, damn, well, hold up. You seem like, you're organized. You seem like you're this, you seem that, you seem that. And so that feeling makes people willing to take a risk. So if you're able to over and understand options and opportunities, that's how you optimize. So the first thing that you got to do, starting today, is you got to manage your positive and your negative thoughts. Because that's the same way you manage your income and your outcome. Bills are like negative thoughts. Jobs and income creation is like income. So the best way to generate capital is to make choices and decisions to take advantage of the opportunities that are presented to you every day. Everybody on this call, you get unlimited opportunities every day. The only question is, how can you take advantage of them? Because you don't see them as opportunities. How come you don't see them as opportunities? You have, like I used to have, money avoidance. How come you have money avoidance? This is what I explained to my daughter last night. Like, and it's crazy because Sade's high end. She's doing great. But Sade has money avoidance. Because she lacks the higher level, especially in Dallas. Because Sade's not blonde hair, blue eyes. So that affects her what? Confidence in her cheek. Especially after the experiences that we had in Flower Mound when it took a year to put up a wall. That takes 7 days. Because the good old boys didn't want no Negroes in their community. Because I told Sade when she wanted to go over there. But what's the point? That affects your teeth. Now, if it doesn't affect your teeth, you do it. But it's amazing because people bite off more than they can chew. And then they end up coming in and bite you in the ass. So that's credit. Credit is the ability for you to know, don't overextend yourself. Don't go out and buy a bunch of stuff knowing you're not going to be able to make the payment. How do you make the payment? With confidence. You don't make the payment with money because money is not paper. What is money? How do you generate more money? You generate more money when you generate more confidence. Well, how do you generate confidence? Well, confidence comes from being good at something. Man, if you don't get nothing from today's message, credit is simply confidence. Confidence is competence. Competence is simply clarity. Clarity is simply charity. Those are, when we went to the 7 C's, we talk about them all the time. Brothers and sisters, I've been doing this for a very, very, very long time. I started from the bottom, and now I'm here. Whenever someone is experiencing an issue, it's because they are placing themselves in an area where they are uncertain. Uncertain is the same word for usury, which we're going to be breaking down during the series. It's better to be the lender instead of the borrower. You want to put yourself in a position where you are both the lender and the borrower to yourself. You determine your own terms. How do you do it? You start by simply becoming the lender and the borrower of your own thought. That is your first bank. So God gave you spiritual money to play with, to see if you can manage that. Then the Bible says, I can trust you with little. Then I don't have to trust you with much. But if I can't trust you with the little, how the blankety blank, 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 blank can I trust you with the much? So the big G is simply expressing and giving you the opportunity to expose, to express, expose, and expand your God-given destiny and dear career. That's what credit is. Credit is the ability to understand that, okay, thoughts come into my brain every day. I am not my thought. I do not have to buy that thought by putting my attention on it and making it more amplified than what it is. Now, I'm not saying that the thought is not real. I'm just saying that I'm not going to amplify it. I'm just saying I'm not going to gaslight it. I'm not going to increase the thought. I'm going to take my energy out of the thought. And I'm going to put my energy, my money into something else. That's credit. Credit is the ability to manage your thoughts. Then credit is the ability to actually pay off bad debt. What is bad debt? Bad debt is you've had bad thoughts and now they manifest in your life. So what are you going to do? Okay, you got to pay that debt. Okay, how do you pay that debt? You pay that debt by paying off that bad thought. How do you pay off that bad thought? By getting out of that bad position. How do you get out of that bad position? By getting into a positive position. How do you get into a positive position? You get into a positive position by thinking positive thoughts. How do you think positive thoughts? You think positive thoughts by making a concrete decision. How do you make a concrete decision? You wake up, you look yourself in the mirror, say, I don't give a blank how I feel. I'm not operating on feelings. I'm operating on the ledger. What is the ledger? The ledger is accounting. What is accounting? Accounting is numbers. Numbers don't lie. People do. So you need to become a spiritual accountant. A spiritual accountant is somebody who takes an accountability of his thoughts. So I was talking to my children, and we was talking about their mom, and we was talking about some of the situations, and they was like, well, Dad, we don't understand. Like, we watch you. And this is what I love, I love. They watch, kids watch you, man. They watch you. They watch you. I was talking to my niece, and she was telling me that, yeah, you know, my boyfriend, he listens to all your shows. He wants to say, does? He listens to all your shows. He does all this, he knows his numbers. He's talking about you all the time. I met this dude once at my daughter's wedding years ago. I've never talked to him. That one encounter, though, was enough to have an impact on his life. Because he's another black man, just like me, struggling, who don't know Jack Digley. This is why I do what I do. It's not for the money. It's the fact that there's black men walking around that ain't got a blanking clue. And if they don't connect with somebody like me who's going to tell them the truth, not King James, the truth is you got to manage your mind. The way that you manage your mind is you just make a conscious decision. I ain't sure this thing's going to leave, but you got to start somewhere. You start where you at. You bloom where you plant. You take the opportunities that are presented to you. Don't try to be, which is another reason why I personally know, is I was telling my niece, I know why there is no connection. Because I said, well, he listens to all my shows. How come he don't call me? How come he ain't text me? How come he ain't join? How come he ain't did this? How come he ain't did that? You see, brothers and sisters, all my children will tell you. I was talking with Bianca. She did the same thing. And everybody else on this call, you know. I can see through you. You can't con me. Even if you conning me, it's because I'm allowing you to think you're conning me. Because I know you need to feel that to build your confidence. So I'd rather you build your confidence on me than on somebody else. People don't call me. They don't talk to me. They don't hang around me because they know me. If you ever watch Legend of the Fall, the character that was played by Brad Pitt and his life, how it's, you know, in the whole movie, it was just like, man, tragedy, blah, blah, blah. But the old Native American dude said that he is the rock that breaks all the other stones. That's been the story of my life. A lot of people, man, a lot of crazy stuff has happened to me. I'm still here. I'm still standing. I ain't going nowhere. I'm going to go leave out the same way I came in. Because I got a mental disposition. And I'm telling you, God is my witness. I don't care how much money you got. I don't care how tall you are. I don't care how big your titties are, or how little they are. I don't care if you know, blankety blank blank. Nothing matters except the spirit realm. The spirit realm is the only thing that's eternal. All this physical stuff is going to go away one day. But your job while you here is to become a spiritual accountant and establish spiritual credit. Your spiritual credit is the ability for you to take the assets that God gave you and the liabilities and move the ledger, change the ledger, turn your liabilities into assets. That's all I do. That's all I do every day. I get paid for my liabilities. One of my liabilities, I'm stubborn. Another one of my liabilities, I talk a lot. Another one of my liabilities is I'm a perfectionist. Another one of my liabilities is I'm anal retentive. The shit's not done right, do it again. Another one of my liabilities, I can't do drama. I don't do cray. I don't have the time for cray. So I don't have patience. All of my liabilities, this is what I get paid. All I do is monetize my life. I took what the devil meant for evil and I changed it over to a positive. I turned a negative into a positive. That's your job. That's credit. Credit is the ability for you to be translated, to be transferred out of darkness into the marvelous light. That's credit. To the degree that you're able to transmute, that's what alchemy is. Alchemy is the ability to back in the old school, is the ability to turn metal into gold. When you are a spiritual alchemist, you turn a negative thought into positive thought. So somebody come to you and they say that you're garbage. You turn that garbage into paper, money. Transmute negativity, brothers and sisters. That's credit. You can never be broke if darkness is your friend. Everybody can ball on the mountaintop in the light. But when it turns out to dark, and when you turn out the light, Negroes get scarred. Not me. Your ability to monetize the darkness. Oh, yeah, you talking about your gifts? Yeah, I got some gifts too, dude. We all got gifts. But let's talk about your liabilities. Yeah, let's talk about your flaws. Let's talk about that part of your character in your nature that you don't want nobody to know. My daughter was telling me like, Dad, you was crazy as hell. But we all knew you was consistently, cyclically crazy. So we knew your schedule. So we was cool. Because you was consistent. Even if you crazy, at least be consistently crazy. Whatever you are, be you. Don't try to change for nobody. Don't try to be fake. If you are, if you sold off to Jesus Christian, you be you. Don't try to act like, you're a Christian around Christians, and then when you're around non-Christians, they're like, no, boo-boo. Keep that same energy. Keep that same energy every day. Whatever that is, be you. Be authentic. Be real. That way you ain't got to fix nothing. You're not fake. The guy you see on these shows, when you come to my house, I'm the same dude. I'm the same dude. You can get the same energy. Why? Because I learned that being fake takes a lot of work. It's a hard work. Because you have to try to remember who you are, what character you playing in this role. If you playing the same character, I'm the same character every day. Master Teacher 33. I'm here to replace error with truth. I'm not hardcore aggressive. So now I ain't gonna be charging you up unless you charge me up. If you one of these people that want to be lied to, hey, I'm just gonna act like, hey, okay, you act like you don't see the elephant in the room. Nobody sees the elephant in the room. Okay, everybody's acting like that there is no elephant in the room. Okay, there's no, I'm gonna do, hey, no elephant. Nobody want to talk about it? Okay. But if you ask me, hey, Doc, is there an elephant in the room? Yeah, there he is right there. I'm gonna call him out. But if you cool with acting like there's no elephant in the room, I'm acting, no, there's no elephant in the room. So brothers and sisters, the series that's starting on September the 2nd, it's going to be awesome. The series that's starting on September the 15th, that's going to be awesomer. Because then we're going to break down, once we get the credit right, then we're going to get into, okay, now we got your credit score right, you got your business going. Now we're going to set your business up so that way you can utilize all of your income and you can triple your income. So every time you get paid, you multiply it by 3. So that way, if you make $1,000 in your ledgers, on your accounts, on your books, you just made $3,000. That way you can triple your net worth. And that allows you to qualify for a lot more credit. And you be getting $5,000 and $10,000 cards like I got. And you use those to rotate to keep yourself in a position, whatever position you want to be in. So that way, again, management, though, is the key. But it all starts with managing your brain. Because if you don't, what happens? You're going to panic, which is what I tell my daughter. And you're going to read the press clippings and the hype. And people are going to gaslight you, and you're going to buy the hype. Because if you do not have the ability to manage your own brain, somebody's going to come and tell you the sky is falling. The sky is falling. Tell everything. And you're going to be like, oh, yeah, man, shoot. The sky is falling. Trump is coming back. Or Biden is coming, whatever people are listening to on TV. And if you buy all the stuff that they selling, my brothers and my sisters, you're going to crash and burn. Well, I'm at the Shizzle. Thank y'all for driving with me back to the town. Just made it back home. I love y'all, and y'all already know. There ain't nothing you can do about it. We see y'all later tonight. God bless.